Welcome to episode 2 of the Terrible Take Sports Talk broadcast. I am your host and producer, Holden Altman, and I am joined by
John Lingefeld
and Jacob Stockton.
And we got a lot to unpack here today. Got a full episode, very entertaining episode to say the least, as we'll have a guest on our show later to talk about LSU versus BAMA. I will not be revealing his name yet, but he'll be joining later. So, to start off, we have a new segment, Trivia. And this is fan interaction trivia. So, when you click on the Spotify episode, you will see an answer bar right below, and you will give your answer and your name. If you get it correct, without cheating, your name would be put into a drawing to win a special prize. So, let's get right into it. So now it's time for Revival's Pizza Trivia Question of the Week. Revival Pizza, Christ first, crust second. Come visit us at 8707 Highway 165 in Stroyton, Louisiana. We serve pizzas, burgers, and wings, and we love to have you out there. And thank you to Zach House, the owner of Revival Pizza, for being our very first sponsor on our broadcast. And we'll be announcing the prize next week, and that's when we'll reveal the answer in next week's podcast, and that's when we'll reveal the winner. So, to get into the question is, since the release of the playoffs in 2014, 2 teams have started outside the top 14 of the first rankings and then snuck into the top 4 in the final rankings. Who are those teams? So, to go ahead, answer that without looking it up, and we'll reveal the answer next Friday when we release episode 3. All right. So to get into our second segment of the night, we have a trivia game involving Dry Adam and Stockley. This will be an ongoing series against those two, as they claim to know everything about every sport ever played.
Walking sports encyclopedia.
So this is playing the game. The trivia game is that they'll be guessing the leading rushers every year from 2010 to 2022. So they'll be guessing 13 years of leading rushers in the NFL. So we'll go ahead and start. Dry Adam and Stockley will play rock, paper, scissors. Winner goes first. Say rock, paper, scissors, shoot. And Stockley wins.
Give me that. Already
right,
starting
Stockley,
off strong, baby.
You got the
That'll be the
floor
only thing
first.
he wins all night.
No.
All right, Stockley, you take the floor first. They're allowed to answer any year, any point.
Right.
They alternate guesses. Each correct guess is a point. Once they answer 3 wrong, they're out the rest of the game. Whoever has the most points gets a win for the week.
All right. I'm going to start off strong. I'm going to go with my boy, AD, all day, 2012 Vikings, Adrian Peterson.
Correct. Stockley got Adrian Peterson correct for 2012. All right, Dry Adam.
All right.
Oh yeah, they've had no research. I literally told them this about 5 minutes ago, but they've had no research at all. They just got to use straight brain knowledge.
All right. I'm gonna hit one of my Alabama boys up. Take an easy one. Take that first dub. Josh Jacobs last year, 2022.
All right. Josh Jacobs, 2022. Stockley?
I'm going to take it easy as well. 2021 Colts, Jonathan Taylor. Give me JT.
Yep. Correct. Dry Adam?
Might as well follow Jacob and do 2020. Derrick Henry, another Bama boy.
Correct.
RBU, baby.
I don't know about that one. We'll see.
All right, Stockley?
I think I'm going to go back-to-back years. 2019 Titans. Give me the king. What is Derrick Henry?
Bama boy.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
All right, Jai Adam, you got the floor now.
All right, now I'm gonna take it back a little bit. Got on them. I'm a little nervous about this one, but I'm gonna guess it anyway. 2010 is it Arian Foster?
Correct.
Let's
Got it
go,
right.
baby.
Oh,
Let's
man.
go. Let's go.
All right.
Mind you, I was 12 years old.
Dang it. I had that one. It's that big brain knowledge.
All right, Stockley. Next guess.
2018. I'm going to go Cowboys. What is Ezekiel Elliott?
And you are correct. Ezekiel Elliott, 2018.
All right, I'll take it back too. Okay. 2013, Shady McCoy, the Eagles.
Yes, that is correct.
Dang it, no!
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Shady
They're
McCoy.
100%. They are 100% so
All right.
far. They are
Here we go,
passing
here we go.
class.
2014 Cowboys. RBU. DeMarco Murray.
Correct. Still passing class. Might have to go for a tiebreaker soon. All right, Jai Adam.
2015, Dalvin Cook.
2015.
Is it Dalvin Cook?
Give me that.
No.
Hey,
Wrong.
can I guess now?
That is one strike for Jai Adam. He is one strike down. Yes, Stockley, your turn.
Oh, no.
2015 is going to be another OU boy. Adrian Peterson, AD.
Correct. He is
Oh.
correct. Stockley up by one, I think.
No.
All right, we still have 3 years on the board: 2011, 2016, and 2017. All right, John, you're up.
2016, Ezekiel Elliott.
Correct. All right. The
Man,
floor, Stock.
I can tell we're evading the Jaguars. So I'm going to go 2017 Chiefs. Jamal Charles.
Wrong. That is strike number one for Stockley.
No.
Okay.
Stockley's ahead by one right now. Stockley's ahead by one right now. So
come back, kid.
Come on, man.
All right, I'm going to stay away from 2017. I think I've got 2011 a little bit better. I'm scared to say it. I don't even know if Jacob would know it. Is it
go on. Keep going.
Maurice Jones-Drew?
Yep. You got it right.
What?
We're tied at 6.
What?
He played for the
What?
Jaguars that year.
Bro, NFL Madden is coming back, brother. Let's go. Okay.
What?
All right. For the win, Stockley. For the win.
2017 Chiefs? Oh, man. How many seconds do I have to guess?
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if I know this one. I have a name written down, but I don't know.
Oh, I got it. He carried my fantasy team. Kareem Hunt.
No.
Yeah.
Give me that, baby.
Stockley with the win.
No.
Stockley with the win. Getting
my
up clutch. The Kareem Hunt. What a clutch. Well, for our first trivia game on this Terrible Takes podcast, Stockley is up 1-0 against Jai Adam Langefield.
We both got one wrong. Oh my god.
The next, that was trivia game, and the trivia question were all Lucas Toller's idea. He is our producer, co-producer, whatever. He helps a lot, and he couldn't make it tonight, but he plans to make it in future episodes. So you'll be hearing more from him.
GG, Jacob.
Yes, I enjoyed that. That was fun.
Thank you. Hey, good game. That was intense.
Tough. That was tough.
That was intense. I feel like he would have gotten that if I got it wrong. I think he would have gotten it if I got it wrong.
I had Kareem Hunt written down.
Dang. Yes.
So transitioning into our NFL segment, not much going on this week. Simple NFL week, but a lot ended up happening. Kirk Cousins ACL Achilles tear, nice Achilles tear. Saints offense pop off for over 500 yards, and Panthers getting the first win of the season over the Blake's Houston Texans. Blake's had it rough recently. We'll get to that later. All right, so whoever wants to take it off, start off the NFL segment, go right ahead.
Yeah, I guess I'll start off with the Vikings. I feel really bad for Kirk Cousins, my favorite quarterback in the league. After watching that QB1 documentary, such a down to earth man, very humble, puts God first, and then it's family, and then it's football. Um, the Achilles injury sucks for the Vikings. They're on a 3-game win streak, and without their captain on offense, they're already out. Justin Jefferson. If they want playoffs, they're currently sitting at 7th. They got the Saints and the Buccaneers behind them. It's really difficult because you have all this momentum, and now boom, your captain goes down. So now you're out QB1, your wide receiver one. It's going to be tough for them. Do I think their season is now in jeopardy? I do. I do believe that. It's going to be tough. They went and picked up Joshua Dobbs from the trade deadline on Tuesday. So Dobbs, he's an aerospace engineer. So I'm going to have faith in the Vikings because he's a smart boy. So I think they may sneak into the playoffs. They'll be close. If not, they'll finish 8-9 or 7-10. I think losing Kirk hurts them, and not having Justin Jefferson. It wouldn't surprise me if Justin Jefferson just sits out.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think Joshua Dobbs has been playing good this year for them to have gone out and gotten him. He's only thrown for 1,500 yards, 8 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's only got a QB rating of 81. Now, their backup isn't exactly game ready, I guess you could say. It's Jaron Hall. They got him in the draft, but he has hardly played. I think he has like 3 or 4 attempts passing. And so, like, I get going and getting somebody, but why do you go and get Joshua Dobbs whenever he's not even good at Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, and you could think of like the pieces around in Arizona aren't as strong, which is why they struggle, right? It looks like they're tanking for a quarterback anyways, and if it's even more obvious now that they got rid of their only competent quarterback, and we can put quotations around that because obviously, like you said, he has not performed well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know it is very interesting.
I guess my thing is like with Justin Jefferson out, being injured for however long he is still, it's a bad situation in Minnesota. Like they got rid of Dalvin Cook, he's gone. Justin Jefferson goes down with an injury. Kirk Cousins now, their one guy who had like a lot of experience at QB goes down with a season-ending injury, and now they're having to go out and try to find somebody, hoping that he can provide some type of talent to the team. I just don't know how it's going to look for the rest of the year for the Vikings. Probably not too good unless Justin Jefferson comes back and is able to do something with Joshua Dobbs, but I just don't know how it's going to go for him.
I agree.
I guess we can talk about the Saints now. They took a dub this weekend.
Yeah, finally clicking.
Saints, impressive win over the Colts, much needed win over the Colts. Basically popped off over, like I said, 500 passing yards, or the total yards, sorry. 350 passing yards along with 161. Yeah, y'all got anything else? That's all. I was just pointing that out. 138-27.
The only thing I'd like to point out is Rashid Shaheed, 3 receptions for 153 yards and a tutty. Not bad stat line at all. Taysom Hill had 2 rushing touchdowns, so that was impressive. He's their Swiss Army knife, as they like to call him. And Chris Olave is back with 4 receptions and 46 yards, and I guess he liked to slow things down this week.
Yeah, and I think honestly, if the Saints offense just remains consistent and has a pulse, I think they'll be all right. I mean, the division in the South is like not good at all, and the Saints have a decent defense to compete with anybody in easily. It's just they got to stay consistent on offense, and if they can produce, and you have to have 500 total yards of offense, they can just get over 300, 350. They'll be all right.
So after a little bit of technical difficulties on my part, we are back. So we just got done talking about the Saints. Finally got clicking. Made a Joshua Dobbs comment. So the last thing for the NFL we're going to talk about is the Panthers. Carolina Panthers finally get their first win over the Blake Houston Texans. So obviously Bryce Young, the quarterback of the Panthers, is a former Alabama quarterback. So Jadon earlier said he has some things to say.
I mean, it wasn't an amazing game by any means, but he just didn't make any mistakes whenever it was time for his name to be called. I mean, 235 passing yards, 1 touchdown, no turnovers. Throughout the season, he's had 4 interceptions, 4 fumbles, so not too good keeping the ball in his hands and keeping the ball for his offense. But he did this game, and they won. Shout out to Adam Thielen. Dude's been playing really good this year for him as a veteran wide receiver. CJ Stroud, I mean, he looked like a backup QB. 140 passing yards, no passing touchdowns. He had 1 rushing touchdown, but it's not like he broke for it for like 50 yards or anything special. I don't know, man. The penalties killed the Texans. I know that. They had 10 penalties for 70 yards. Carolina only had 3 for 20. The only positive that came out of the Texans camp is their punter set their record for the longest punt in franchise history with 74 yards. Besides that, not much. I mean, it was a pretty low-scoring game, and all their scoring seemed to have happened all in the first half for the most part. So it just wasn't a high-scoring game, but it was what the Panthers need to finally get a win in the season. I'll say that.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree with all of it. And, I don't really like the Texans anymore. And if you are betting out there and you're a bettor, don't ever bet the Texans. They will make you sad. Sorry, Blake, but your team is not a good betting team, regardless of who they're playing. It may just be me. I may be a jinx to your team, but I'm not going to say that. I don't like the Texans. Good for the Panthers. Good for Bryce Young. He needs this. Good momentum. But yeah, if you're a bettor out there, don't bet for this.
Yeah, you got to feel for Blake right now. Last week he took the L from the Astros. Rangers won the World Series if you're living under a rock. So Blake in the trenches. You got to feel for the man. All right, for the moment we've all been waiting for, we have our first guest on the Terrible Take sports broadcast or sports talk, and that is Travis Broussard. Welcome, Travis. How are you feeling?
Hey, guys. I'm feeling great. Thank y'all for having me on. It's an honor and a pleasure, and I couldn't be more excited.
No problem.
For us. Thank you for being on.
How's it feel to be the first guest?
Like I said, it's a pleasure and an honor, and I'm gonna go down in history, and so are the Tigers when they take down the Tide in Tuscaloosa on Saturday.
Yes, go straight into it. Love it. But obviously, big game this week. This is why we brought on our first guest, the LSU versus BAMA. We got a BAMA fan, John Adam Langfield versus Travis Broussard, the LSU fan. Not really going to go into any debates. Got a few questions for both of them to answer. They got their debates. They went on all week so far. So I think they got them out of the way. So we're just going to answer a few questions. Let them state their opinions of the game. Might be a few little tiny arguments, but We'll let them play it out. All right, so first question. So we'll go John first, and then let Travis answer second. Well, no, we'll let the guests go first. So we'll let Travis go first, actually, and then John second. So Travis, who obviously LSU fan, but being realistic here, who do you think is going to win, and what's your score prediction?
If I'm being completely honest, I do think LSU has everything it takes to go in there and beat Alabama. I'm not trying to say that just to get a hot take or get on the Instagram story or anything, but I do think LSU has the offensive keys to success for this game because they have shown time and time again that they can put up points regardless of whether or not our defense can stop anybody. I'm not worried about LSU being able to put up points on Bama's defense, but I do think the issue is going to be our defense stopping Alabama's offense. But the final score prediction I'm going to give is going to be the same one I gave earlier in the week, and I'm going to say LSU wins 45-42.
45-42. You heard it here from Travis Broussard. LSU takes the dub in Tuscaloosa. All right, Joe Adam.
I'll start off with my score prediction. Bama 56, LSU 49. I think it's going to be a very high scoring game. And here's some key factors that I have in this game are going to be what SEC games are made of, basically. And it may not be the old school SEC ball that you used to see, low scoring, pound for pound, just trying to get 3-4 yards. It's not going to be that because the SEC's changed, college football's changed, and I think to me, one of the key factors in this game is going to be Jalen Milroe. So obviously he's had some ups and downs so far this year. Started the season out slow, not too good, looked uncomfortable in the pocket, and to the point where they went to second, third string quarterbacks to try to find an answer. Now, you watch those first couple of games that he had, and there were some, speculation going into it. There were already questions from the season before. Is he going to be the passer that Alabama needs to have to be able to get the ball to wide receivers? Is he going to run a lot like he was last year because he looked uncomfortable? And when he looked uncomfortable, he just left the pocket and ran. Now, once they went to Ty Simpson, once they went to dude from Notre Dame, they just didn't look too good, inaccurate, overthrowing balls to wide open wide receivers. Yeah, Buckner. But once they put Milroe back in, I think it was more of a leadership role that Milroe took, being the older guy on the team and the guy with the most experience for what he did have. And I think his teammates also respected him. And so I think that was why Saban ultimately chose him as a starting QB. And he had to come out and name somebody the starter. Because if not, you're going to have all this speculation all year, never going to find somebody to finally put in that starting role. But with that being said, Milroe has definitely shown some improvement in his passing game. His deep ball is very beautiful. He does struggle sometimes under pressure with short passes, misses wide receivers, sometimes over the top. Sometimes it's just wacky throws that I don't understand what he's doing. I don't see what he sees. But that's also, I'm not a quarterback at Alabama. His O-line needs to help him. I think that was a big factor at the beginning of the season. As much as he might have made some poor decisions with where he was looking, I think the O-line needs to give him more time in the pocket.
It's really going to come down to whether or not they can establish the run game. If they can get the play action pass set up, then they'll be able to throw the ball deep because the LSU linebackers will be crashing in. But if they can't establish the run against LSU's D line, they won't be able to.
And I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. Under my note right here, I have O-line. Give Milroe more time to make better decisions, and be good with the run game because that's going to set up everything for us. We have the running back talent, I feel, to establish a run game. It's the O-line who's got to. It's winning in the trenches. Ultimately, it's beating your man and getting those 5-6 yards to be able to, on the very next play on second down, be able to go 15, 20 yards down the field on a play action pass. And if not, for Jalen Milroe, I feel like another big thing for him is when he does feel pressure, he doesn't feel it until it's too late. Like he takes too long to finally feel that pressure's there. If he's uncomfortable about the routes that are being run, if he feels like the receivers aren't open, he takes off. And that can be another factor, I think, in the game as well. He's been staying in the pocket a lot more. If he could start feeling pressure, given a little more time, if he can get outside the pocket and run with his legs and be kind of a versatile quarterback that he is, the dual threat that he probably really should be, I think that's going to affect LSU's defense as well. And then on to LSU. I think LSU has a lot of the same things. They have a better quarterback. They have a better pocket quarterback who can also scramble as well. So look out for that. But I feel like for Bama, the D-line is going to have to contain – it's going to have to put pressure on Jalen Daniels because Jalen Daniels is putting up amazing numbers, Heisman candidate numbers. And if they were to beat Alabama this weekend, would most likely be projected number one in the Heisman race, I feel like. I'm just going to be completely honest. But I feel like it's a lot of the same problems. If LSU can establish a run game against Alabama's D-line, they're going to get what they want through the air. Now, the DBs, I will say for Alabama, pass interferences are not going to cut it because they do get handsy. They may be good defenders, but they do get handsy with really physical wide receivers, and that can cause some problems if they don't watch out for the pass interference calls.
I will ask you a question, and also to Travis. You mentioned how your O-line needs to establish the run game. Obviously, LSU's defense is not the best, and they give up quite a bit. They give up 395 yards per game. And so my question is, do you think the LSU defense somehow has one of their best games against you guys, considering it's a rivalry game, stakes are on the line? Do you throw out some of those numbers out of the way, and so it doesn't seem like it's a shootout? Because I feel like in rivalry games, right, like OU Texas, sometimes you can throw away the numbers because it actually is.
With LSU's defense, I personally believe that we are not set up for success regardless of what our numbers have been over the course of this year, because we are going to be down two of our starting cornerbacks. We have been missing Greg Brooks at safety severely because of his brain injury, piece up to 3. And also we are out with Mekhi Wingo on our front 4, which means we may not be able to get the same amount of pressure that we've been able to put on other quarterbacks throughout this season, which has forced different looks to them. But with that being said, LSU has steadily improved ever since, I feel like, the Ole Miss game, forcing turnovers and forcing more pressure on the quarterback. However, with that being said, I don't think Alabama's offense they're good. They're obviously better than Auburn's offense or Army's offense, but I don't think Alabama has the offense needed to be able to pull away from LSU if it was to get in a shootout. Like, LSU has the offense to keep up in a shootout, but I don't think Bama does. Bama has a lot of negatives on the offensive side of the ball. Their offensive line has shown that they can't really protect, and so if Harold Perkins is coming off the edge and you've got him coming down and raining hellfire off the edge like he did last year, then you're really not going to be able to do anything about that. And Jalen Milroe, I feel like, is a very unpolished diamond, similar to that of Jaden Daniels whenever he was at Arizona State. He has a lot of upside and a lot of potential to him, but he hasn't had enough. He's had time to develop, but he hasn't developed the way he needed to be an effective SEC quarterback. So I think that LSU's defense, even though it struggles, this is our Super Bowl. It is our Super Bowl every year, and I have to credit Nick Saban to making it that way, because to be able to win the SEC West, you have to go through Bama to do it, and it's every team's Super Bowl every year. And so I think our defense does play better because of that, but I don't think that we're going to look like a superstar defense like the 2011 LSU defense was.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand what you're saying. very good points. I don't disagree with anything that you said. With that being said, so throughout this week, I've been tossing and turning about the actual score of the game, and I know I just gave my prediction was 56-49. But to Jacob's point, asking that question, could it be because of a rival game? Could it be a lower scoring game? And even though I do keep my prediction at being a high scoring game, the only way I truly feel the game will go lower is for the reasons that I explained. If there's tons of pressure on the QB and there are turnovers, or if Jalen Milroe doesn't feel comfortable in the pocket and we put pressure on Jalen Daniels, I think it can be one of those games where your first several drives end in punts and or turnovers, whichever one. And I'm not necessarily saying that's what's going to happen, but in a rivalry game, you see this in all types of sports. In every rivalry game you see, there's sometimes blowouts. Most of the time it's going to be close games anyway. Texas, Oklahoma, even though it may be a high-scoring game, it's going to be close. Ohio State, Michigan, it's always going to be a good game. Every now and then there's one that may get away, garbage time TD, whatever it is. No matter what, I think it's going to be within 7 points, 10 points, but it's going to come down.
It'll for sure be a one-score game.
Yeah. And in those key factors, I have this written down as well. So whether it's a low-scoring game or a high-scoring game, we have the best kicker in the SEC. Shout out to Reese Altman, who was also a kicker at West Monroe High School. Went on to play at Southeastern. My boy Reese, shout out to you. He set the SEC record 2 weeks ago for the most points from a kicker in SEC history. He's perfect this year, hasn't missed. And that is something Alabama hasn't had in a very long time, is a consistent kicker who we feel safe kicking from 50 and closer. And I'm not saying that's going to win you a game, but it can in a close game like this add up if we can get some stops. A kicker, having an accurate kicker within 45, 50 yards means the world to a team if they can't get touchdowns. And I'm not saying that's going to win you games, because I know LSU has been putting up a lot of points. Their offense is very good. But in a game like this, when you're talking rivalry, and you think of all the rivalries that you have and how many close games you get, that last 10-second field goal can win you or lose you the game. And you want somebody to be able to put in that spot, in that moment, and why not have the leading SEC kicker in scoring ever in that moment? So not necessarily that that's going to win the game, but it's a huge factor in my opinion.
And then
there's no way in my mind that LSU's defense stops Bama from putting up at least 35 points. There's not, like, I have all the faith in the world that LSU can and has the ability to win this game and will win this game on Saturday, but I personally believe that there's no situation whatsoever where LSU's defense holds Bama under 30. It's just not there.
I have one question that I need you to answer. Just one. If there was a negative on your team currently, besides the defense, besides that one problem, that everybody knows, what would you say it is? Is there a negative, like, as far as matchups against Bama, that you think goes against LSU, besides just the fact that the defense has been putting up a lot of points or allowing a lot of points?
Outside of our secondary and our defense, I think the biggest thing that a lot of people don't focus on is LSU special teams. Because even though we have Damian Ramos, who's a redshirt sophomore kicker, and he's been really good this year for us, and he was really good for us last year, won us a couple of big games, our punt coverage on receiving the punts gives me a heart attack every time the ball leaves the foot of the punter, because back-to-back years in the opening game against Florida State, we've had muffed punts, and in multiple games this year and last year, we've had muffed punts. And I think that right there, I would rather see LSU, every time they force Bama to punt, if they ever force Bama to punt, send 11 guys after the punter and let them down it. Because I'd rather that happen, just have the offense go from the 1 to the end zone, than muff the punt at the 10 or the 15 and give Bama the ball in the red zone. That's one thing I don't think enough people focus.
Yeah, I mean, special teams is important for anything, and especially in a big game. I mean, like you said, against Florida State, you ended up losing that game, and that was one of your bigger games of the season. So
that's momentum swings.
Exactly, and in a rivalry game that we're about to have, those types of things, add up and can swing momentum, especially with it being in Tuscaloosa. If that were to happen Saturday, I mean, that's a huge shift of momentum. Now, we'll say something that y'all probably have that we could struggle with potentially is the penalties. If we get a bunch of false starts, pass interferences, then y'all build momentum off of that, because obviously that's going to keep drives going or whatever. Give y'all the ball if we have to punt. If we get a false start,
will help y'all a lot with offensive penalties, though. I feel like y'all playing at home will cut down a lot on y'all's false starts and delay of games. However, y'all still did struggle with it against Tennessee, and y'all played.
Yeah, and I agree with that. If we were playing at LSU, we'd have a much tougher time as far as hearing. Being in Death Valley is always a tough place to play. Credits to y'all. But I think turnovers are going to be key. Controlling the trenches, offensive line, defensive line. Who's going to win the battle? Physical game. SEC, old type of SEC physicality is what's going to be needed. And I think penalties and turnovers are ultimately what's going to cause it to go one way or the other. Because, like you said, if it is going to be a high scoring game, then those little things are going to add up to where one team's going to benefit a lot more than the other, obviously, if you're turning the ball over. But I think those are some of the bigger keys in the game. But yeah, I expect a really good game. I expect what everybody's hoping for, and that's going to be a high scoring, close game between two of the best teams in SEC.
I will make a quick point. I'm excited to watch the LSU offense versus the Bama defense. And I want to hear your take on it, because personally, I think Bama's going to win by double digits, solely because I think that Bama defense will be all right. Again, a terrible take or a hot take or a great take, we're going to find out. But I think because Bama's defense showed up in the second half against Tennessee, lights out, they only gave up 108 yards in the second half. I don't know what Nick Saban said to them in the locker room. They completely shut down whatever Tennessee was doing. Bama's worst defense performance was 454 total yards against Texas. Now, you can look at it as a negative. Right? Texas is a offensive team, score a lot of points, similar to what LSU does, but better. I mean, LSU does it better than Texas. And I think Alabama, they're 17th in the country on defense. I'm a big stats guy. Obviously, rivalry games matter. And I see LSU's, they have 500 plus yards. In the one game they lost, they didn't put up 500 total yards. And granted, it was the first game of the year. But I think, and this is a hot take, I think Bama wins double digits. I still think it's a shootout. I think it's 48-38 or like a 45-35. You can go ahead, Travis. I know you disagree.
Well, I'm not going to go as far as telling you that you're entirely wrong, because if somehow Alabama's defense forces 3 turnovers or we muff 2 punts or something like that were to happen, that's obviously that would be very likely to happen in that circumstance. But if we go back, if you keep referencing the Florida State game where we played terribly defensively, but our offense was really great. Our offense is the one thing that's been steady all the way through. If we kick 3 field goals in the first half and we are up by 9 at half as opposed to being up by 3 at half, that changes the entire trajectory of the second half. And those were points that weren't just going to be like a long field goal. We went forward on 4th down inside the red zone multiple times and didn't get it. If Brian Kelly does that again in Tuscaloosa and we don't get those first downs and turn them into touchdowns, if we go for it on 4th and goal or 4th and 1 on the 11 instead of kicking field goals and we don't come away with points at all, it's very likely that we'll lose by double digits. I have faith in our offense to get us those first downs, But I have seen it backfire on us in the past, obviously against Florida State, where we weren't able to do that. But I don't think that there's a way that this game gets LSU beat by double digits. Alabama's defense may have played really well against Tennessee, but Tennessee doesn't have the same kind of O-line or receiving core that LSU has. LSU has been able to, over the course of this season, find a go-to back with Diggs out of Notre Dame and a star running back as a freshman with 28 Jackson. And they are a really good 1-2 power with a John Emery being a change of pace back who can come in and catch passes and really affect the way a game plays out, as we saw last year when he had that big 30-yard touchdown reception against Bama in the fourth quarter. And we obviously have the best wide receiver duo in the nation with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. And the reason I say that is because they are putting up better numbers than Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase did in 2019. And those two guys are lighting it up in the NFL right now. In my opinion, there's no way that Alabama's defense, outside of us not kicking field goals when we need to, keeps LSU from keeping it within 3 points.
Very good points, but I'd also like to point out that, like, even though y'all had that first week against Florida State, it seemed like in the Ole Miss game, it's kind of the same issue. Like, your offense is fine, but your defense can't get stops. So I'm just asking because in this situation, you have 1-loss Alabama, 2-loss LSU. I'm gonna beat Ole Miss. I wouldn't say super easy, but second half we kind of ran away with it, and y'all struggled defensively against them. I'm just trying to get kind of figure out your brain on the situation as far as what's going to happen in this game, because if you struggle against Ole Miss and we beat Ole Miss fairly easily going into the second half or whatever, what is that? I know the first week is obviously it's a hard week because you're just now starting the season and you're starting off against a non-conference opponent who's looking to win the ACC, which is props to y'all because y'all are close in that game with one of the top in their conference. But as far as overall standpoint, I mean, you get to Ole Miss and you lose to Ole Miss, who we beat fairly well. What's changed since then that can get y'all to beat us this weekend?
I was at that game in person, so I got to see our defense on multiple plays struggle to get coverages called in time, struggling with tempo. And if Nick Saban and Tommy Rees go tempo, I think it can have a similar effect with LSU's defense. But I also watched LSU Auburn live, and they were able, even though we were playing in Death Valley, and when you're on defense and you're at home, it's going to be louder. I found that it was a lot different watching them get the calls in, even though that Hugh Freeze tried to go up speed with it. We were still able to get in our relays and play better defense and get better calls in faster. The biggest thing I see between the Ole Miss LSU game and the Ole Miss Alabama game is that Alabama has the 17th ranked defense in the nation, and LSU has the 125th ranked defense in the nation. And that's what it's really going to come down to on Saturday night is the fact that Bama has no offense and a defense, and LSU has no defense but an offense. If we were able to, if both teams were to combine together, we would be unstoppable. We beat Georgia. We wouldn't have a problem beating anybody we played. If you take LSU's offense and Bama's defense, put them together, you have a team that rivals any national championship team over the past 20 years. And I honestly believe that. But I don't think that Bama has the offensive firepower or the offensive mind at head coach or at offensive coordinator that Ole Miss does. That's what I think is the biggest thing. Tommy Rees coached under Brian Kelly at Notre Dame, and you've seen what he's done with offenses since then. Notre Dame went 8-4 last year under him. with Nick Saban. He's done better, but they almost lost to, or they played terribly at USF. And even though they were playing with backup quarterbacks, they were trying to find an answer. So that's what I think is the biggest difference between the LSU Ole Miss game and the Bama Ole Miss game is that LSU didn't have a defense in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, Travis. Like I said, I think it's going to be a close game within 10 points. I see it going high in scoring. I see a lot of touchdowns, but if that 15 ranked defense at Alabama that's been showing up these last couple weeks, if that shows up and because of a rivalry game, LSU somehow finds their defense early, I don't see it getting high if that's the case. If Alabama comes out and they're able to stop Jalen Daniels, because he's the main guy who's going to run that offense. You got good running backs, and I completely agree with you on that. But in the trenches is going to be where it's won. We've already stated that. But if Jalen Daniels gets stopped, if he gets held under 250 yards, I think that's a win for Bama's defense. I personally think he's going to throw for over 300, and that's why I think it's going to go high scoring. But if Bama were to get a turnover, 1-2 turnovers, picks, and Jalen Daniels gets held for under 250 yards, and Bama's winning in the trenches, defensive line is stopping the run, I can see it going low. Like I said, my prediction was high, but if it were to go low, it's going to be because of those reasons. And it's going to be because Jalen Milroe doesn't feel comfortable being in the pocket because his offensive line is being pressured by the defensive line at LSU, which is good pass rush. And they're not established in their run game and pass game. It's the same thing both ways. I really think so. And in a rivalry game, penalties, turnovers, trenches are going to win you the game. We've always seen in SEC ball that in those situations, sometimes the games can go low in scoring. So we'll see how it goes. It'll be a good game.
I have a question for pretty much all of y'all. What is the point, like the points that Bama scores in this game where you feel comfortable that LSU can't match it? Because I honestly believe that there's not a point number that Alabama hits that LSU can't also match or exceed. And I think that if LSU hits the 49 mark, I think Bama goes over it.
I agree with you. I think it's what you guys have mentioned with like turnovers and special teams. I don't think there is because LSU has to match it. So pretty straightforward for me.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think there's not. They'll probably play it evenly matched the whole game. So I don't think there's. If Alabama scores 70, LSU is going to score 63, 65. Or even match it.
And that's why I have it within a touchdown. Essentially that's why it's within a 10-point game. There's no way it goes over a 10-point win either way because it's going to go pound for pound. It may not be that high of a scoring game. It may be 10 points less, but that I don't know. It's going to be a keep up thing. And in rivalry games, the keep up is key. And with LSU's offense being as good as it has been, and with Bama's offense playing up against a defense that's not very good, it can go high scoring. But if LSU were to find their defense in a rivalry game, they're going to come into the game hype. Brian Kelly is going to say, we're in Tuscaloosa. We beat them last year. We can beat them again. They have a quarterback who's not super established this year. And we need to come out here and show them that we can play ball. I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to be a little different than what you're exactly saying. I don't think it's going to be somebody puts up 70 and somebody puts up 63. But I think it's going to be momentum. Momentum's going to be what wins the game.
Well, all I know is give me that Alabama Elephant Roll Tide head and play me some Dixieland Delight. It's going to be a 10-plus ball game.
if I'm being totally honest, Stockley, I think that's a load of cap because there's no scenario in my mind outside of LSU not kicking field goals where that is the case. Now on Saturday when you're sitting there on your couch watching the game and LSU goes for it 4th and 1 on the 11 and they don't get it, then you can look for it to be a 10-point game by an Alabama win. But if LSU takes the points or even makes those 4th and 1s touchdowns, it's going to be a game scored both teams over 30. In my mind, there's no way, even if LSU's best defense somehow show up, it's capable from us this year, there's no way that we can make it Bama score less than 30.
That's fair. I mean, I don't have much else to say. We'll see Saturday.
I don't know. Full of Dixieland delight.
Roll Tide.
All right.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Anyways,
I expected y'all to say, but it was an honor to be on here with you guys, and I hope that y'all are all wrong, and I hope I'm right. And whenever I am, I will send y'all the neck theme song in the group chat.
Hey, Travis, man. Hey, I appreciate your insight on LSU football. We do need some unbiasedness out of this podcast, and you brought that to the table today. So I hope you're wrong too.
I love just sitting back.
I hope I wasn't as delusional as you thought I'd be.
We'll see.
Yeah, you got all that. You got all that away in the group chat.
I got that. Yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah.
Anyways,
but we appreciate you, Travis.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Travis.
Thank you. See you later, Travis. All right, so moving on. So next up, we have the college football playoff rankings came out Tuesday night. So I know this is off schedule, but I know we had just talk about Louisville, but I decided that might as well go ahead and talk about just the college football playoffs. So obviously you have you have all the undefeated teams first, all the 1-loss teams, and 2-loss teams, and then 2 G5 teams just to make everyone happy. Obviously there's people are going to be upset. It's how it always happens. So I just want to get y'all's thoughts. LSU behind Missouri, even though LSU beat Missouri, but Missouri falls in that 1-loss category and LSU falls in 2-loss category. And then obviously you have Louisville making the top 13 potential. I think could be potential college football playoffs team if they win the ACC, beat Florida State. And obviously Florida State's gonna be top 4 until they lose. So what's y'all's opinion?
I don't think Louisville will. I don't think we have to worry about Louisville. They do look good though, and on paper they look great. And I can think about that in a little bit, but yeah, I think it's a little inconsistent with the rankings, and I think it's a little lazy. I don't think, to my knowledge, I don't think there's ever been rankings where they list all the undefeated teams, the 1-loss teams, the 2-loss teams. Last year they didn't do that, and it was fine. Now again, right? It's the first rankings. We all overreact. I mean, I'm going to overreact right now, and it'll all work itself. But I think it's a little lazy because and inconsistent. You have LSU and Missouri. LSU went into Missouri, beat them by 10. LSU should be ahead of Missouri. I think LSU is a better football team than Missouri. If you look that's where they got head-to-head wrong, number 1. Number 2, they got head-to-head right with Kansas and Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State beat Kansas. Oklahoma State's losses are terrible. South Alabama at home, and you're going to lose by 6. Not acceptable. Now, they have 2 good wins now because they've beaten Kansas and Kansas State. So, yes, they can be in the top conversation. But that's where they got it right there. So then I don't understand why you're going to get it right. Kansas, Oklahoma State. That's when head-to-head matters. Kansas has 2 better losses. It's inconsistent on the Missouri LSU one. I think for Washington and Oregon, I think Oregon can go ahead of Washington. I know head-to-head, you're going to look, well, Washington's undefeated. They're 8-0. Oregon has 1 loss, and they lost to Washington. But I think right now, And I only say this because when I watched, the committee says it's a clean slate. We go in and we judge the best teams that we see. If you're judging the best teams you see right now, I think Oregon is better than Washington. Now, I am totally okay with Washington being ahead, and I'm not too mad, but I think there is some inconsistency and a little bit of laziness by the committee.
I'll say this.
I know.
Okay, as far as the inconsistency you're talking about, I see that. I mean, it's a flip or flop. LSU has 2 losses, right? Yeah. To ranked opponents. They weren't terrible losses. It's not like they got blown out by anybody. They did beat Missouri. They ranked Missouri ahead. Missouri has 1 loss. It's a flip or flop in that situation. And I get what you're saying, because that is you could go either way. Missouri fans are saying they should be ahead of LSU because they only have 1 loss. LSU fans are saying, but look who we lost to, and we beat y'all. We beat y'all. But basically, it's the first. I know everybody's going to talk about it. We're going to have discussions. We're going to get heated over it. And I've been saying this all week. It's the first rankings, right? And when LSU plays Alabama this weekend, if they were to lose, then LSU doesn't really have much of a say-so anymore. They win, they're back in the conversation. But everything's going to play out to that point. I firmly believe that. Oregon's going to play Washington again. If Oregon is going to be ranked better than Washington, beat Washington in the Pac-12 championship. And I've said that. I think Oregon is the better team, but head-to-head, you give it to the person who beat you. And considering Oregon only has 1 loss, or Washington has a loss, obviously, but I don't know. I think I get what you're saying, and I completely agree. Some of those takes, or some of the rankings, are just blowing my mind. How Kansas is lower than Oklahoma State, but at the end of the day, it's going to work itself out in the championship games, in the conference championship games, and they're probably, like every single year, there's going to be the teams in the 5, 6, 7 that all probably should or have a resume that's worth being in, but they're going to leave somebody out. It happens every year. And what it's going to take is winning your conference championship game, and essentially you're going to get in. You can't lose in the regular season from now until then. Like Georgia, if you're Georgia, you'd be scared if you lost in the next 3 weeks. They have a tough schedule coming up. If they were to lose, if they were to lose in the next 3 weeks to whoever, and they're going to still make the SEC championship, and if they lose, they're done. If they win out until then and they lose in the SEC championship, there's still talk about possibly letting them in because they only have 1 loss. And then that brings up the whole strength of schedule and when did you play them? Because if you play them at the beginning of the year, is it as important as playing them now? Like, it's those situations.
And you bring up strength of schedule, and it's the exact reason why Ohio State's number 1. It's because of that strength of schedule. Georgia, up to this point, hasn't played anybody. So has Michigan. Michigan has all cupcakes. Ohio State's played Notre Dame, and they played Penn State. And those are 2 great wins. And that, I think, is why the committee has ranked them number 1. Do I think Ohio State's the number 1 team? No. I think it goes to Michigan or Georgia. Do I think the sign stealing impacted Michigan? I think so, a little bit. But yeah, I mean, strength of schedule obviously matters, and I think it'll work itself out. Like you said.
And the Georgia, Ohio State jumping Georgia is fine with me. I agree with you. I don't think Ohio State's as good. They beat Penn State, impressive, but it was at home. Yeah. It's not like they went to Penn State and beat them at Penn State. They did beat Notre Dame, which was another top win for them. So as far as strength of schedule, yes. Everybody else they've played doo-doo. So it's not like I don't know. I guess when
they won't have anybody
schedule, it's important. Georgia's gonna play 3 ranked opponents in a row if it still stands that way. And there's some strength of schedule for them to finish off the season going into a SEC championship game. And that'll provide the strength that they need if they were to win those games. Now, if they lose, it's going to affect them too. But as far as strength of schedule goes, theirs is about to get a little bit better in the next 3 weeks compared to Ohio State, who's already gotten those games out of the way.
Yeah, and I think those games
they'll play Michigan, honestly, but
yeah. And Michigan hasn't played anybody, so I honestly think Michigan will stay 3 until they play Penn State and Ohio State. And Georgia, like you said, has those 3 ranked teams, and I think that will ultimately help them jump Ohio State. I don't see how Ohio State stays number 1 for the next 3 weeks, assuming Georgia wins out. I do want to say another thing. I don't know how USC is ranked. They are a terrible team. They have the worst defense I've ever seen. I think it's only ranked because they have Lincoln Riley as their head coach and they have Caleb Williams as quarterback. That's the only reason that they don't even deserve to be ranked. But that's the only reason they are ranked is because they have Caleb Williams and their head coach is Lincoln Riley. They have no impressive wins. The ranked teams they played, and they're about to play their last 3 games against UCLA, Washington, and Oregon. They're going to lose. They play Washington this weekend. If anything has taught me about a Lincoln Riley, Alex Grinch defense, they're going to lose. They're going to play a team. Well, they could beat Washington because Washington seems a little inconsistent on offense, but they don't deserve to be a top 25 team.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think it's going to be a tough matchup this weekend for them because it's at home. It's at USC, which is tough for Washington in the first place. I mean, I say that USC hasn't exactly shown me much at home, but it's still home field advantage. It still plays a little bit of a part. And when you're playing a top 10 team in the country, there's going to be a lot of momentum going into the game. Like, you're going to be pumped. You're going to be psyched. It's kind of like what I was saying about LSU. You're going to be psyched going into the game, pumped up. It's at home. You have projected number 1 quarterback player overall in the NFL draft coming up, Lincoln Riley, like you said, and an offense that their offense is still good. It's just the turnovers that causes them the most problems. And their defense is garbage, obviously. And for Michael Penix, it's going to be finding how he was playing earlier in the season whenever he was Heisman contender, right? Not what they had 5 turnovers last week. That's not going to cut it against USC, I don't think. I think USC's got a chance in this game more than they have in the other games previously. But to your point, USC, they haven't proven anything. We talk strength of schedule. They've played ranked opponents and they lost. So strength of schedule really kind of goes out of the thoughts if you lose every single one that you play. That's not very impressive to me. Strength of losing to ranked opponents shows nothing to me. You beat Washington this week. Okay, you stay in the top 25. That's fine. Maybe you shouldn't have been, and then you beat Washington, and then you get put in. But that's after you beat a ranked opponent. Like, actually beat somebody worth beating. And then don't almost lose to Arizona, There's a lot of – I think there's always been that situation in the top 25. There's always that team that has a lot of hype around a particular player, team in general at the beginning of the season, and they start off top 15, and then they beat a couple teams, and they look really good. They have a Heisman candidate or whatever, and then they face their first real opponent, and they get beat. Like Lamar Jackson in a way, whenever he was at Louisville. He was blowing people up with all these rushing yards and stuff, and then they play a ranked opponent with a good defense, and he kind of goes down. Like, he's not the same guy.
Well, when they lost,
he is in the NFL, but yeah. But going to Louisville, as Holden was saying, they beat Notre Dame, and that was an impressive win. And they also shut out Duke last week, 23-0. That was somewhat impressive. I mean, I don't think Duke's that great, but still a ranked opponent that you beat, so that's good. I think they have to win out, and they got to beat Florida State. That's a lot of what ifs,
I will say one thing to Louisville. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good.
There are only 3 teams that have a top 25 offense and a top 15 defense. I think we can all guess one of them is Georgia. The other team is SMU, and the third team is Louisville. They have a top 25 offense, and they have a top 15 defense. And yeah, I agree with what you're saying. They have to win out. They look good.
Yeah. All they got left is Virginia Tech, Virginia, Miami, and Kentucky. And I think one of them's away, one of them's away, and the rest of them are at home. So as far as winning out, they have a good chance, unless they have a game where they just fall apart, turnovers, whatever. I don't know. That Miami game looks pretty interesting. But if they get to the ACC championship game and they beat Florida, I think they will have a big argument to be in the top four.
Oh, yeah.
And winning your conference is huge with one loss. So to Holden's point, I think Louisville can be in the top 10, maybe top 4 if they do win out and win their conference.
Yep. And then also just another thing, like, we're saying how, like, inconsistent the college football rankings are, like, playoff rankings. Like, it's, people get this idea that the AP poll is going to be the exact same thing as the college football playoffs rankings. But they're two separate committee. So I think just, and then you bring that in when we're 1/4 way done with the season. Like 1/4 of the season left. And then it's just, boom, different rankings. Because, like, AP poll, you can have a one-loss team that's number 5 and an undefeated team that's ranked number 9. But that's just not what we got for this playoff ranking. We got all the undefeated first, then 1 loss, 2 loss, and then the G5 teams. So it's just like, yeah, I hate it, in my opinion. I think that if they should just do the college football playoff rankings the whole year, just so we can have that, like, just have it like, okay, this is the official one. Because, like, I always think, okay, the AP poll is just the official one, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait, never mind. I got the playoff rankings coming soon. And none of this is going to matter anymore. So that's just my take on it. I think it's like, if we're going to have, especially go to 12 teams, we don't need to be releasing the rankings after each team plays like 8 games. If we're going to go to 12-team playoffs, we got to do the playoff rankings the whole year. Because I don't want to go into them releasing the rankings with an undefeated 12 team in the AP poll, and all of a sudden that team's like number 23 in the playoff ranking. Because they're going to be it's going to be an undefeated G5 team that's ranked in the top 12 next year. Well, playoff rankings come around, and the playoff ranking is going to rank them at 24, 25, because the playoff rankings don't care about group of 5 teams, no matter how good they are. Like, we've seen it with UCF.
We see it now with Tulane.
I mean, Tulane made a New Year's Six Bowl, beat UCF, USC.
I'm going to make one comment on that. I'm going to put one comment on that. Tulane beat USC. It looked great last year. We're all pulling for them to win, obviously. And coming into the season, like, to start off strong was important for them, and they did that. They hung in there with Ole Miss, which was impressive, with a backup QB as well.
Ole Miss is ranked number 10.
Tulane's ranked 2. So, to my case, I think about group of 5. I say schedule like that. Rather than just Ole Miss, schedule another SEC, somebody else. Put in that schedule to toughen it up. Hang in there. Show that you can hang with the top team.
Improve your strength of schedule. Improve your resume.
Beat the teams that you're supposed to.
You're showing yourself that you're a Power 5 school in the non-conference. So once you get to the conference play, you're sweeping everyone. Yeah. But then if you do that, everyone's going to be like, well, your conference sucks, so you're not reliable.
Yeah, and the conference may suck, but beat everybody you're supposed to, and then schedule a couple of non-conference tough matchups, hang with them or beat them. You do that, Tulane can make it. They just have to put some more tough matchups in their schedule. Yeah, and I think that's what separates them from everybody. It's been that way. I mean, Cincinnati was an exception because they played a little bit more talent, but they didn't even have that hard of a schedule the year they went undefeated. because they didn't really play that many beef teams. And more than Tulane, yes. But talking top teams in the country, who do you want in the top 4? Putting a team that's played nobody in there is just it's calling for a bloodbath with the top 10 teams in the country. I would put
that
top
team
10.
is going to be, because any team like that is going to be ranked number 4, and then they're going to play the dominant Georgia team that's going to moat them out the window. So it's just not. Everyone complains about it, but I mean, if the committee thinks they deserve it, then the committee's going to put them in there.
Yeah, I get their point. I'm undefeated. We haven't lost, but who have you beaten, right?
Yeah.
And in the games that, like, did you have a close game against teams that you should have blown out by 14-21? Like, did you establish dominance in your conference, even though you're in a lower conference? And if you did, good for you. But add some extra toughness in your schedule, and then you can make an argument that you should be in the top 10 or top 4, whatever it is.
Yep. So that'll do it for our college football playoff segment. So last segment, we'll just get Stockley's feelings on this. So obviously, the big Oklahoma Sooners went to the Kansas Jayhawks. As Stockley said, big noon kickoff, cold, wet, rainy, lightning delay. Kansas can pull it out if it's at those weather conditions, and it turned out being those weather conditions. And Kansas ended up pulling the last drive. The last drive, they went down the field and scored, like I called it. And Kansas ended up winning, and they stormed the field, took down the goalposts, and threw it in the lake. So Stockley.
Boomer Sooner. Sooner, baby. Let's go.
So Stockley just...
Oh, my word.
So Stockley, just give us a few...
I'll make it very quick.
How do you feel?
I'm sad, but I'm also happy because my school knocked off a top team. Again, OU is my first love, and so it hurts. But deep down inside, I am very happy. I think it's a great win for the program and where we're headed. I will say
first top 10 win since like 1990, 1980.
First win against OU since '97.
OU.
But I am sad. I think there's many issues that went wrong for Oklahoma. One of them being with establishing the run. I don't know why we have to penalize our running back number 1 for the first 3 to 4 for the first 3 drives of the game in Tyree Walker. I don't understand why we're seeing Bean throw the ball and dot up our DBs, but Dylan Gabriel can't throw the ball. So I think there's issues there from Jeff Levy and Dylan Gabriel. I think they need to fix that because what I saw, I know it's rainy, I know it's cold, the weather conditions play a lot, but what I saw was a team that looks very inconsistent. It looks exactly like the team I saw last year in 2022. And the first few games of the season, we're attacking the opponents, we're throwing deep balls. We only had like 3 deep balls that went farther than like 6 yards. We only had like a couple passes that went over 5 yards. It's unacceptable. I know they'll learn. Venables is a good coach. Hopefully he can take this loss. And like last year, he can bounce back really well. But I am very happy for the Jayhawks. Devin Neal and Daniel Hishaw are GOATs. I love Devin Neal. Running game is incredible. If we can get Jalen Daniels back, I don't see why we can't win out.
I have 2 points to say. One, shout out to Holden. Last week, he called this game.
He did.
Said Kansas would beat Oklahoma, so that's a very impressive take. With all the terrible takes that we have, that was actually a good one.
Football, baby.
Second point. So I had mentioned last week, Kansas allowed almost 400 points to John Rice Plumlee. Remember when I said that? Well, now they allowed over 400, 443 to be exact, to a second-string quarterback from Kansas. And his name is Bean. I just...
Yeah, we got Bean.
Defense,
and it was just beans.
Remember the defense thing, man. It's gotta be established. And I know you have a head coach that loves defense, but It's not looking like that very much right now.
Just the last few games, it hasn't been looking like it. The offense needs to get it going.
Yeah. With that being said, OU has a chance. They go to the Big 12 championship game, beat Texas again. You're in.
Out, go to Big 12.
That's all I'm going to say to that.
I agree.
Alrighty, so that's it for our college football segment. Great to have Travis Broussard to join us, and great points in LSU Alabama game, and great points in the college football playoff segment, and also for Stockley. If you see Stockley, we're sending him a text message say it's okay, buddy. Hit him up, make him feel better.
We love you.
I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. KU won, so that's good.
Hey, it's a win-win situation for you, or lose-win.
A little bit of a win-loss, but you know.
Anyway, so just to hit on something real quick, Texas Rangers World Series champs. First World Series win in 63 years of being a franchise. Just to give a little shout out to John Michael Hill, diehard Texas Rangers fan from the day he was born. That dude, I think he could probably, if I was with him, he was probably crying, happy tears. Tears of joy. That man was so excited in our group chat. He let Blake have it because Blake talked a bunch of trash about the Rangers because Blake's an Astros fan. So he let Blake have it for a little bit. But anyways, congrats to the Rangers. I also had a great take in that. I said that Rangers are going to win in 5, and the Rangers won 4-1 the series. So
very impressive takes by Holden were there.
Yes.
He made some smart decisions.
You guys would think that. You guys would think Holden made some smart decisions.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we have just 2 more tiny segments to hit. So the next one is we decided to come out with our top 5 team uniforms. So just the basically top 5 teams with the best uniforms. We all have different lists, not the same one. So we'll just each go over our top 5 and basically give like a little small argument about it, and then we'll move on. So I'll go first. So at number 5, I have the University of North Carolina at 5. I think their baby blue and navy combination works really well. My favorite color is blue. So any blue is automatic dub for me. So but they have like all baby blue uniforms that have accent of navy, like trim around it, helmets and stuff. So I think that goes really well. They also have like a baby blue and black color uniform as well, along with the white. And then number 4, you have the Tennessee. Of course, you have their blackout uniforms with the orange T on the helmets. It's a similar symbolism kind of deal. That's what I like about it. And then they have the all whites as well. Number 3, you have Florida State. Now they might not have flashy uniforms, but Stockley's holding up a Snapchat message saying that Kansas has all blue uniforms, but anyways, to get on track, I have Florida State. I think they have classic uniforms. They might not be the most stylish, but they have like different cool patterns around their necks or on their shoulder pads and their helmets, and of course I think they have one of the best logos on their helmets. And so then also just the color maroon is just really fancy looking. So I think that also goes along with just the classical look. And then number 2 have Boise State. I think they could be a sleeper. They have 3 colorway jerseys, all blue, all orange, and all white. So I think, and then they have this like grayish jersey they throw in as well. So I think that makes them number 2, just having that range of all school colors to choose from helmet to toe. And then number 1, I have UCF. UCF. I think their space unis they come out with every year are pretty sick. And I think that their space jerseys and then just the color black and gold go. They can do. I think. Yeah. So yeah, I think their space unis give them the edge over everyone, and then they also they can do black, gold, white, just about anything. So Who wants to take the floor?
I'll go. So it's crazy. Number 5, Florida State. I dig it. Now I will say it's garnet is the color. It's not maroon. So let's make sure you fact check your colors. Are you colorblind? Joseph McMahon can help you with that.
I am not colorblind. Anyway, it was look like a maroon, so I just said maroon.
No, it's understandable. My brother-in-law is a big Florida State fan, so I just know things. But yeah, they're clean. I like the designs. It's always been just fun. Good looking uniforms. Florida, I have Florida at 4. I've always been like you said, blue is I'm the blue guy, and blue and orange just look good together with the gator on their helmet, and they have some pretty cool black unis too. I think they wore them this past. I know they've worn them this year at some point, but they added to like honor the first responders and military. Those are pretty dope looking. 3 is Oregon. They really can't miss a whole lot. I know they had they wore something not too long ago. Maybe it was against Washington, where their helmet was a little bit clashy with their actual uniform. It was like silver helmets, and they wore them with white or something like that. It looked a little off. But as far as, they're sponsored by Nike. They're going to have beautiful colors and designs. 2 is Washington. The purple. My goodness. Give me the Huskies all day long. And number 1, Penn State. Whiteout unis. They're clean. They even they're not whiteout uniforms. They're simple. They are the history of what college football is. Plain, simple colors. They look clean. It's not like they just are just bleh, like boring. Something about it stands out. That's just gorgeous. They're my number 1. And there's other teams like that too. Alabama's got just their simple crimson and white, and that looks good too, but not enough to be in the top 5.
Yeah, so I have none of the schools that you guys mentioned in my top 5. Well, except for John Adam, I have one of them. Washington I had a toss-up between them for my 5 spot. I'm not gonna lie. I love their uniforms. That purple is a beautiful purple. The only purple I don't like is Kansas State because they're nasty and they're ugly, and we don't like Kansas State. But number 5, I have Kansas. More specifically, kind of towards this year, their combinations that they have. They're blue, they're red, they're white, they're black uniforms. They're different combinations you can create with them. The style of Jayhawk on their helmets, I think it's really clean. So I got them at 5. Number 4, San Diego State University. They got some clean black uniforms. I love black uniforms. They're red and black. They have some great combinations. Number 3, sleeper pick from the FCS, Weber State. You talk about purple. They have a purple jersey. It's all purple. It's got this chrome purple helmet. Clean. Go up and you search up Weber State purple uniforms. Clean. Top 5 easily. Number 3. Number 2, TCU. The purple, the black, the white, the silver. Clean. The combinations clean. I love it. I love the purple, black, and white. Dang straight. That's white. That's right. And number 1, Oregon. They have the best combinations in my opinion. As a kid, everything I had, like NCAA wise, team, it was Oregon just because of the uniforms. I love all their combinations. Home, black, the green, the yellow, all of it. So that's my top 5.
Hey, shout out to Lucas for TCU. Lucas Toller, our co-producer, whatever you want to call him. He's a big TCU guy. So, Jacob, you just made his day saying his uniforms are in your top 5. I can tell you that right now. He is smiling right now at the Sterlington game.
Oh, yeah.
So, going on to our last segment of the night, we each will come up with a terrible take and team of the week. Obviously, our podcast is called Terrible Takes, and we will make a lot of terrible takes. So we will each voice our opinion on who made a terrible take. So, John, you want to go first?
Yeah, I can tell you your terrible take. is Utah losing to Oregon. You said Utah would beat Oregon and that they would go on to win the rest of their games and be in the top 10. That did not happen. However, even though we're talking about terrible takes, I will make my good take, and that was that I said Oregon would beat Utah, and then they would go on to win out, beat Washington in the Pac-12 championship game, and make the top 4. So there's your terrible take. It's not that terrible, but it's terrible to me. So terrible Holden take.
All right,
Yeah,
Saka,
my
what's your terrible take?
My terrible take has got to be myself with the OU take, thinking that they were going to win. I did think it was going to be close, but I wasn't really smart with that one. So my terrible take is going to be OU.
All right, and my terrible take. It's not really a take, but it was the joke Jai Adam made last week when talking about how LeBron James should go play for the Phoenix Suns with his son and play for the La Suns. I think it was just a terrible dad joke that was just stupidly funny for no reason. So I know it's not a terrible take, but I think it's just a funny joke that it needed to have more light shine on it because I think it was very clever dad joke.
Hey, yo, you know what I'm saying, bro. LeBron James, better than MJ.
LeBron James.
I like playing with my sons.
Mickey Mouse. Play Mickey
I like
Brown.
playing with my sons for the Suns. I mean,
Play Mickey
thank
James.
you for the shout out.
LeBron James. Anyway, so you heard our terrible takes of the week, and we'll go into our terrible team of the week. I'll go first. Obviously, the terrible team of the week is the Houston Texans. You simply just cannot allow the NFL team that hasn't won a game to beat you. That's just terrible. Unfortunate. I thought it'd be the Saints, but Houston Astros took that spot of losing to a team that was winless.
My terrible team is OU. Severely disappointed. I am very disappointed in Oklahoma. They looked really terrible. I am very disappointed. I could talk hours of why they make me sad sometimes. So OU, you are terrible right now. I am not happy. Make me happy on Saturday, please. So yeah, that's my terrible team.
Dang, Jacob. OU's making Jacob cry right now on air, on the podcast. That's crazy. I'm sorry, Jacob. It'll get better, I promise. Well, maybe, unless you lose again. My terrible take actually happens to be good for me. Okay, so let me explain. The Denver Broncos played the Kansas City Chiefs this past weekend, and I'm a Denver Broncos fan. Now, you can make a case that it was cold, snowy, whatever, but for Kansas City, that is a game that they have to win. You're one of the top teams in the NFL, and you can't lose to, for one, a person who's been made a joke out of Russell Wilson. You can't lose to him. You can't lose to that defense. Denver's defense hasn't been that great this year, surprisingly, even though that's what has been their strong suit the last couple of years is defense. But they were able to create some turnovers. They were able to keep Kansas City, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift duo out of the end zone and look really good against one of the top teams in the NFL. And I'm not saying that Denver is a top team in the NFL, but as far as terrible teams of the week, I got to give it to Kansas City for losing to Denver.
There you have it again, folks. You have the Houston Texans, Oklahoma Sooners, and the Kansas City Chiefs as your terrible teams of the week. That will do it all for episode 2 of the Terrible Take Sports Talk podcast. Thank you for joining in if you have made it this far. It's been a fun and hectic episode, to say the least, but we are making strides to make this better. So I'm Holden, producer and host.
I'm John Adam.
I'm Jacob. Oh, yeah, he's John Adam. I'm Jacob.
And thank y'all for joining this episode. See y'all next week, and we'll announce the winner
Peace. Hey.
We'll announce the winner of the trivia question and the answer next week on next week's podcast. So stay tuned.